Today, we talk to ARK Invest's Cathie Wood about the state of crypto investing. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World here in Miami Beach, Florida for Bitcoin 2022. I'm Kate Rooney. Let's start with some of the price moves. Digital currencies fell again this morning. Prices fell an average of 0.9% by noon Eastern. Bitcoin dropped by about 1.8%. Ether, meanwhile, fell by 1.7%, and XRP fell slightly by 0.2%. Let's turn back to the conference and specifically the vibe here in Miami. The city has become a crypto hub in recent years. I spoke to a few different people leading the way here. This is not your average pickup basketball game. It's an elite networking scene, invitation only. Buying a crypto token is required to join.
Founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, creators.
The players are some of the city's top tech investors and entrepreneurs, making deals on the sidelines and networking on the court. This is Miami, the city that wants to lure tech from Silicon Valley and finance from New York, all by embracing crypto. Investor Chris Adamo co-founded the basketball group. The native New Yorker is now a 10-year resident of Miami. He has become a staple in South Florida's crypto crowd.
I must take about 10 calls a day if people are new to Miami.
That energy is spilling into local bars and restaurants. Some, like Freehold in Wynwood, are starting to accept Bitcoin to keep up with that new tech money.
Just like 10 years ago when somebody would pay with a black Amex, I think like paying with Bitcoin or crypto is something new and different and eye-catching.
Others, like Bob Dennison, are accepting it as payment for much bigger purchases, like yachts. Who's calling you up trying to buy a boat this big with cryptocurrency?
And they tend to be a little bit younger, they tend to be tech-minded, more obviously risk-taking, adventurous. We love the crypto audience because they use their boats in a really cool kind of different way.
Part of the draw to Miami, lower taxes, friendly crypto legislation, and a vocal spokesperson. Mayor Francis Suarez, who even takes his salary in Bitcoin, capitalizing on what started as a tweet that went viral and led to changing the perception of the city.
From a place that was fun, from a place where you could retire in, to a real place of tech and finance.
Now, with a major Bitcoin conference drawing tens of thousands to Miami this week, the mayor says they're ready.
We're accustomed to having large events. Miami knows how to have a good time. We have the ability to grow into the future, which a lot of cities across America, unfortunately, do not have the ability to do.
For our main story today, I caught up with Cathie Wood of ARK Invest to discuss all things Bitcoin. We talked about the Fed, what's happening in DC, and a lot more. Cathie Wood, thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you.
Happy to be here, Kate, once again.
Yes, and it's been a busy conference day. You just sat down with Michael Saylor inside.
Yes, I did.
I want to talk about Bitcoin. We'll focus this conversation on Bitcoin and crypto. We'll talk about some of the macro stuff as well.
Yeah.
You've really become known for your contrarian views when it comes to equities. Is Bitcoin a contrarian investment at this point, or are you feeling like it's becoming more mainstream?
Well, we were the first public asset manager to gain exposure to Bitcoin in 2015 when it was $250. I think today it's $44,000, and we think it's just begun. But I don't think most institutional investors are positioned the way they ultimately will be. A lot of retail has really led the charge here. They, like with our other funds, the retail investor, the individual investor, those people with one foot in the new world, they get what we do. They get Bitcoin. So I think institutions are coming along slowly.
Well, one of the undercurrents of this conversation, too, is the Fed and central banks.
Yes.
How does that affect Bitcoin and prices?
Well, again, many people think monetary policies around the world have been unhinged, especially since 08, 09. And they're seeing extreme increases in the monetary base, various monetary bases around the world. So Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation. Now, that will turn into inflation if the reserves on central bank balance sheets, which are the kindling for inflation, if they're lit. And that means if bank loans go crazy to the upside. We're seeing a share shift when it comes to loans into DeFi. So, there's a big, I think the banks have a big problem. They're losing talent to crypto, so they're having to raise wages to attract talent. And they're losing business to DeFi, lending and saving. A lot of it is taking place in DeFi right now.
I do want to ask you about regulation as well. Janet Yellen gave a speech about crypto earlier. We've
Yes.
seen some movement in Washington, D.C. when it comes to cryptocurrency, the executive order. What are you seeing as far as politics in Bitcoin and crypto? And is it bipartisan at this point?
Well, what we're seeing is 180 degrees different today than it was a year ago when Janet Yellen, it was roughly a year ago, Janet Yellen said, Bitcoin, environmental problems, illicit activity, money laundering, gambling, all of that. And you know, she just, door shut. And I remember I was asked at the time, and I basically said, she hasn't studied it. She hasn't studied the technology, and she hasn't studied the instrument, the new asset class. Well, it seems like she's been boning up because, again, just the other day, she focused on Bitcoin and crypto generally as, yeah, we need to make sure and encourage financial innovation. The U.S. wants to lead, just as it has with many other innovation cycles. And I said to Yassine El-Mandra, our crypto analyst, I said, who's whispering in her ear? Because we began to hear other policymakers on both sides of the aisle talk in this way. And in talking to Michael Saylor earlier, he thinks it's Gary Gensler. Gary understands Bitcoin. He taught about it at MIT before he became chairman of the SEC, and he understands how profound this innovation is. First, global, private, meaning non-government, but it is open source, so public in that sense. Digital, rules-based monetary system ever. So it's a very big idea, and we do not want to be left behind.
And so Janet Yellen did her homework, or maybe heard from Gary Gensler.